introductions today. So we'll start streaming as soon as Dave Souza gives us a thumbs up.
Good to go.
Great, thank you. Good morning. This is a convening of the Massachusetts Gaming Commission. And we are holding this meeting virtually. So I will do our roll call. Good morning, Commissioner O'Brien.
Good morning, I am here.
Good morning, Commissioner Hill.
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning, Commissioner Skinner.
Good morning.
And good morning, Commissioner Maynard.
Good morning.
All right, we'll get started. It is November 27th. Hope everybody had a nice Thanksgiving, and we were just chatting beforehand, all the chaos of adult kids visiting, full refrigerators. Now we are turning back to business on this Monday morning, and we do have a great agenda. I'm going to turn right to our Sports Wagering Division Director, Bruce Band, and his colleague, Crystal Boschman. Good morning. Oh, Bruce, you're on mute.
On mute.
Good morning.
You know, I was pushing the space bar down and nothing, I guess. So today we have the quarterly reports from Caesar Sportsbook, DraftKings, PSI, and WinBet. And heading this up will be Crystal Bishop.
Good morning. Not a whole lot to introduce here, but I do see that Curtis Lane Jr. from Caesars is on, and I think he's going to take the lead here for their quarterly report.
Great. Can you guys hear me and see the presentation?
We can.
Okay. Well, thank you, Commission, and for the invite to present our Q3 report today. I'd like to introduce our Caesars team for our presentation. Lisa Rankin, VP of Compliance and Licensing. David Schulte, VP of Procurement. Caroline Leyugan, our Responsible Gaming Program Director, and Greg Schinberg, our Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. To start, we want to take a look at our Q3 revenue. And as shown on the slide here, we dipped a bit in July and August. And this is largely due to, just at this time of the year, just having baseball running among the larger sports leagues for this period. But, with the start of NFL, NHL, NBA, we expect an uptick in our numbers come Q4. So for what it's worth, go Patriots. Hopefully those guys can turn things around. Are there any questions on this slide?
No questions on the slide, but I want the draft pick now.
I think everyone on this call can probably make a better field goal than the guy yesterday. So sorry about that.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I guess I'll turn it over to Greg to discuss workforce. Diversity.
Perfect. Good morning to everyone. I want to apologize for my voice, dealing with a little bit of a head cold, and it's kind of hard following Curtis with that comment, but we'll still try to make it good. So going on our workforce diversity, just really kind of repeating what we had previously stated, that we are working diligently to have a diverse workforce of team members as we celebrate all individuals by equitable policies and a culture of inclusion. And so with that, I'd like to restate what our goals are for gender and racial parity across our entire organization in accordance with our commitments by 2025. So what that looks like is for women specifically, 50% of leadership roles will be held by women within both the mid-level and senior leadership populations. Similarly, on the racial and ethnic side, 50% of the leadership roles will be held by people of color. But we also have committed to increasing the representation of people of color in senior leadership by 50%. So our commitment, though, with these goals certainly remains solid, and we are continuously growing forward with this initiative and commitment, that is through our recruitment and our our team member development initiatives that we have in line. So any questions on the goal part? I know that was repeated from the previous. Okay. We'll go on to the next one. So the numbers that are represented here are strictly for Caesars Sportsbook, the sports wagering side of the business. I won't go into every single number, but as you'll see here, you'll see the breakdown of minority, which is primarily Black, African American, with a 39% representation overall from entry level to executive. Women, 24%. Veteran, 2%. Now, what I'd like to disclose on this particular number is we do not require our team members to disclose their veteran status. So this is just those that have self-disclosed on that. And then of the Massachusetts residents, we are under 1% with a total number of team members at 1,528. Okay,
Hi,
Chris.
Greg. This is Commissioner O'Brien. The executive stats for the women is pretty low. And so I'm wondering if you can speak to the initiatives that you might be trying to do to get I know you're trying to get your numbers up. You've got your goals that you said on the other slide, but can you speak to any efforts you might be making in terms of getting that 9% executive number up?
So we're doing a number of things. So it's going to be the same overall Caesars corporate wide, and then we're incorporating that into the sportsbook wagering. So that is through just visibility, quite honestly, and just executive development opportunities. So it'll align with all the other efforts that we have corporate wide. It's just a little bit of a smaller population, and so the numbers are going to move at a much, I shouldn't say much, but definitely at a slower rate. So just increasing by 1 or 2 will significantly increase that.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, turning over to Dave for vendor diversity.
Good morning, Commissioners. As we stated last quarter, our overall goals, our targets for diversity have been improving quarter after quarter. You will see a slight dip in Q2. Those are audited numbers along with Q1. Our Q3 numbers are not fully audited yet. So, and you do see a slight decline in that. Some of that is due to some capital spending that got wrapped up in Q2 and billed for. But we also know that we will probably see a slight tick up after the auditing of these numbers, just because of the nature of the scrubbing that we do. And we do anticipate our Q4 numbers coming in relatively in the same ballpark area, especially with some of the larger capital projects winding up and being billed for in Q4. As we stated last time, Caesars has taken a critical look at our diversity program, and we're committed to revamping the entire thing from A to Z. We are in a final steps of creating some real documents that we feel will really help the base of our core diversity program. And through this, we've even been able to identify a Massachusetts supplier that, although we do not have a casino in the state, we were able to utilize it at our Grand Vic property in Illinois, and we were also able to utilize them at a corporate level out of Las Vegas. So through this diversity sharing, we feel that we will continue to move that needle. 2 things on this slide. Mainly out of the need and the desire from this commission, we are developing a diversity 101 document that will be the benchmark and the base for everything diversity within Caesars. And we're developing a playbook, which is a quick reference for guide for the group, especially sourcing, to be able to look and see where we have regulated markets, where we do not, and help drive the diversity needle up in those markets.
Question,
Yes.
could you remind us what your current diversity spend goal is?
We don't have per se a set in stone goal. It is for us to continually improve, especially within the Caesars digital market and bringing them into the brick and mortar diversity program within Caesars. So I would anticipate that, you know, our Q3 will probably tick up closer to 11. Q4 will also be between the 11 and 11.5%.
Okay, but you plan to document the intentionality efforts that you're putting behind your diversity expansion in these documents that you reference here on this slide.
Absolutely,
Correct.
absolutely, yes.
Thank you. When do you expect those to be available?
By the next quarterly report, we believe they'll be available to this group, hopefully sooner.
Excellent, thank you.
I want to thank you for referencing our expectations as a motivator. You know, I think we all agree that these issues do require that intentionality, and it will result in good long-term change. Sorry that I'm dealing with some lighting issues. I did want to back up because I'm not sure if I missed it, but you said a Massachusetts, I'm not sure if it's on this slide,
Yes,
but you did identify a minority-owned company that you're using elsewhere.
That is correct. Continental Resource.
Oh, it's a viable supplier. Can you just describe a little bit more about Continental Resources, please?
I don't know the real details of them, as I don't personally utilize that supplier, but through our reporting, we were able to identify that.
Great.
Yeah, and what we do is we take that reporting. When somebody comes up with a new supplier that is diverse, we share that through our diversity team. We share it with our strategic sourcing team and our regional buyer and leadership team throughout the country. Then they have that at their right at their fingertips to be able to be utilized and should that spend category come into play.
It's great news. That's excellent. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Curtis, back to you.
Okay, moving on. Thank you, Greg. On this slide, we have our statistics on any prohibited individuals either found or attempted to sports wager on our platform, any individuals turned over to law enforcement, and any individuals suspended due to underage activity. And as shown in this slide, we have not identified anything for the quarter. Any questions here?
Questions, commissioners? Thanks.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So we have recently learned just through conversations and meetings with outside sources from the Mass Gaming Commission that there is some concern that there are individuals who are underaged using computers and passwords from people who are of age to bet. Is there any technology or is there anything that Caesars is doing to identify when something like that is happening? Can it be identified? So, example, I'm able to bet. My 16-year-old knows my passwords. I allow him to go in and bet, which we're being told is happening. We didn't have any proof of it, but just that it was happening. Can you kind of enlighten us what protocols are put into place to make sure this doesn't happen, and can you stop it? Because as I said in that meeting that we had with this outside source, you know, if somebody wants to cheat, they'll cheat.
Yeah,
So it's also within family and also among peers that almost they might use their own platform, load this Caesar's app not be of age, but be able to put the information from in of age.
From my understanding, there's nothing concrete that would definitively identify that. We would have to just do just a series of analysis and just just various testings to determine if that's the case. But at the current stage, there is nothing to definitively define if anyone is underage and using an account.
So if Madam Chair, may I continue?
Yes, absolutely.
So if I'm set up my account on my home computer, let's say, and that's where I'm doing all of my betting, Caesars can tell that's basically where I'm doing my betting from. All of a sudden, an iPhone is being used from somewhere else. Does a red flag go up?
Absolutely. GeoComply will tell us that. If there's different IP addresses being coming from a specific account, we will get that alert and we will do further research.
So that is in place.
Yes.
And you would identify that as suspicious activity, Mr.
Yes.
Lane, and then
Yes.
track it down?
Yes, absolutely.
Is your policy if a parent does share his or her device with an underage child, that they would then be locked out of being able to?
Well, we'd have to do further research on the account and the IP address, but if it's in the neighborhood of a underage individual involved in that, then yeah, we will take the appropriate action to suspend the account until we can get clarification of who's controlling it.
If you were able to clarify that it was a parent, are they unable to have an account with you forever?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Hill?
Yep, thank you, Madam Chair. So since we're learning about the geofencing and things of all that good sort, so if so for example, I'm doing fantasy football. On a Sunday morning, I'm looking at my home computer and I'm making my changes. And then before the Thursday, the 4 o'clock game, I have my iPhone and I'm making changes. So I use both frequently. How would you then know that a red flag should go up? And I'm sorry to be that precise, but.
I think we would have to just review, and again, I'm not on that side of the analysis here, but we would have to review where the signals are coming from.
Gotcha.
If it's relatively coming from the same proximity, we won't necessarily have any concerns. But if it's, for example, coming from a different state or country or what have you, we would flag it and watch it for a while.
Understood.
Need be, we would shut down the account. I mean, in any concerns or anything that's just such an anomaly, we will shut it down or suspend it until we can get clarification and comfort that the access is legitimate. But other than that, it's just consistent monitoring.
Yeah. So I think I'm comfortable, at least in one sense here, that you're looking at the geocompliance and things of that sort, which we wanted to ensure that was happening, and we kind of make representation because we knew that to the folks that we were talking to. But you've clarified and verified that that is happening, and then
absolutely each and every time.
Nothing we can do if somebody's gonna. I don't think it's called cheating, but allow somebody to be in non-compliance with the underage betting. I mean, that's just arguably bad parenting.
Commissioner Hill, if I could follow up, and we're doing piggyback because we, of course, we're in the same conversation, and we're very curious about this reporting. I wonder, Mr. Lane, if the way to really combat this is to have more oh my goodness, I'm blanking on the language, the identification processes to multi-factor. I don't think we require it in our regulation. I think it's recommended, where I know that all devices apparently don't have visual or facial recognition capacity, and that's actually a problem, because that would be the best way to ensure the KYC components, correct?
Correct. We asked for certain verifications to identify that you are who you say you are. But if you're asking for visual sort of verification for that, I don't think we're at that level yet.
Yeah, when we can open up our phones, right, with our face.
Mhm.
And so facial recognition, at least the individual would have to they would have to be in the same room to
Yes.
do, pass
Mhm.
off facial recognition. And that seems to me to be probably the greatest fail-safe. But otherwise you have
Well, when we verify, we ask for, particularly if
security
there's a
questions.
KYC issue, we ask for them to, for example, send a selfie with them holding up their driver's license or identification. So at least to that extent.
That's when you have suspicious activity, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And we've seen that at work, and it was actually quite effective. So,
Mhm.
well, it's just something for us to continue to keep in the back of our minds, commissioners. Because as Mr. Lane says, I think that the technology just isn't quite there. But you do have security questions, and those could constantly
Yes.
change too.
Yes,
All right.
yes. Yes, but the
Thank you.
problem is, commissioners, is that these guys are figuring out ways, once they identify the way that we are evaluating them, they're figuring out ways to circumvent that. So we're constantly adjusting and to prevent further harm from happening. But sometimes it's an undaunting task for that. These guys
To
get
get
pretty
ahead.
serious at times.
Yeah. So back to your last slide, it's all zeros. And that would be an indicator that at this time you have not identified suspicious activity that resulted in any kind of ultimate decision that young people were involved.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our play management reporting. Nothing for Q3, as we were granted a waiver from the commission through October 15th, and we're actually currently playing some catch up here, but going forward, we will include the play management data beginning with our Q4 presentation to the commission. So with that, moving on to responsible gaming, and I'll pass that over to Caroline. Not sure she's there.
That's okay. We're all right.
Hi, Carolyn. We cannot hear you. I see you are trying.
I can't see, but Crystal, is there anything we can do to help her?
I'm not sure if the mute is the issue because it looks like she's off mute. So you may just need to, there's a little tiny arrow next to the mute button. And if you select, it might be selected as microphone, a different microphone. If you select same as system, it usually makes your computer work as the mute, as the speaker.
Thanks, Crystal.
Not always a fix, sometimes a fix.
Sometimes it fixes. We never know.
And
don't
then
get
the
too
other thing to
nervous.
look for is if it says that you're on phone audio, you can leave phone audio, switch to computer audio. And check if your mute button's on your laptop, because I do that a lot. Or my sound's all the way down.
Figured out there's that camera button too.
I can see her. I can't.
Oh, you can see her.
Yeah, I can see
okay,
her.
got it.
Just can't hear.
Just the
And the very last option is always to leave and come back to the meeting. For some reason, that
and
works for a lot of
and make
people.
and make sure to and make sure to say that you want to participate in the audio, whatever.
Looks like it's connecting.
Good.
And now muted.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Thank
Something
you.
always
village.
works, right?
I didn't want to leave the meeting thinking I would leave all the way, taking back all the way out and come back in, but that was the trick. So thank you. All right. So thank you for being patient. I am happy to be here this morning. This is my inaugural, participation in meeting with the Mass Commission. So I'm happy to report on responsible gaming today. So for Q3 2023, we did have a consistent 66 mass state exclusion enrollees or participants, in which we entered into our proprietary responsible gaming application. And just to give you a little background, once we enter these VSEs, participants into our system, it communicates, the exclusion status communicates out to all Caesars Rewards accounts, suppressing the account for gaming, for mail, any type of communication, and limits as well on the brick and mortar side and on the online business side. So that's where we are. We're consistent and happy to report on that. For notable responsible gaming engagement in Q3, we did acknowledge and we did celebrate the Responsible Gaming Education Month. I do want to point out we are not members of the American Gaming Association, but we do participate in the spirit of responsible gaming. So each RG Ed Month, we disseminate a toolkit that consists of a buzz flyer for back of house team members. We have flyers that also go out along with posters. We have a heart of house slide. We also engage our team members with a responsible gaming quiz on our responsible gaming policies. We also released a newsletter from Anthony Carano, who is our Chief Operating Officer. I do have a little image of what that letter looks like. We do also include social media posts as well, talking about our commitment to responsible gaming. And this year we launched an outdoor marquee messaging in the Las Vegas and Atlantic City regions, which was well received. Also, during Responsible Gaming Ed Month, we released our corporate social responsibility annual report. Last year, we did a Caesars All-In We Team member engagement survey. And I am happy to note that amongst 17,000 participants, team members that participated, 88% agreed that Caesars Entertainment promotes and participates in responsible gaming practices. So that's a great benchmark for us. And from here, we will continue our efforts to educate and create awareness amongst our team members on responsible gaming key initiatives and our longstanding commitment to responsible gaming.
Okay, thank you, Caroline. I'll turn it over to Lisa Rankin for lottery engagement.
Good morning, commissioners. Nice to see you all this morning. No material update for Caesars this quarter. We had been previously working with a contact that was primarily involved with the retail sales for the lottery, and he advised that he isn't the best contact for us to do something for our mobile side of the business. So he recently provided us with a new contact, and we're looking to set some time up with that new contact, and we'll report back for Q4.
Any questions, commissioners? Okay, thank you, Lisa.
Right.
Thank you, Chair.
Over to Greg.
So I'd like to just touch on our community, our outreach, and our charitable contributions. So while we didn't have any specific Massachusetts charitable giving for Q3, we did want to take an opportunity to highlight our charitable giving through our Caesars Foundation. So to start, I'd like to share just a little bit about what our charitable giving impact areas are. So we believe it's important to intentionally reinvest in our communities through programs that help address specific social and environmental challenges. So we reinvest a portion of the revenue we generate because it's through the goodwill and support of our communities that we are able to succeed. So with strong communities around us, we can be a stronger business. Our corporate reinvestment strategy embraces 3 social and environmental themes that represent the areas in which we can achieve a lasting positive impact and are significant importance to our communities. So these areas include strategic themes of social equity, education, climate change, and food security, and then of course, responsible play and mental health. More specifically, we seek to achieve broader goals within each of these areas, included providing brighter future through education, taking care of our planet and people, and then improving the quality of lives through play and wellness. These themes and goals help drive our charitable giving for the foundation. So far in 2023, we have provided more than 3.3 million in giving to various organizations across the country, including some of the partners that are shown on this next page. If you can go to that, Curtis. So these are some of the national programs that we have. That is all I had for the charitable giving.
So this is Commissioner O'Brien. Greg, is there a plan to find a more particularized Massachusetts charitable giving, or is this the plan to continue with the national model?
We are always sourcing new opportunities, and especially since we have been more engaged with your commission specifically, we are looking. So we have done some charitable giving in Massachusetts earlier in the year. It just wasn't in Q3. But yes, as we go through each year, we do a review each year, and we are constantly looking to, so from all the diverse communities, but then also in all the states that we have either a physical presence or a heavy virtual presence, we are always looking for some opportunities there. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Curtis, I think that was it. There you go.
Okay. All right. That concludes our presentation. Text here if there are any questions or comments regarding anything for Q3. Feel free to reach out to the individuals shown here, but we want to just again thank the commission for their time to invite us to present our Q3 report today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If you bring down the slideshow, we'll just reconvene as a group. There we go. Commissioners, any questions for the Caesars team or for Crystal? All right, well, we thank you for your time. These are important reports for us as we get to know your business. So thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Caroline, too, for her first outing with the commission. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
What do we got next, Crystal?
Commissioners, you're familiar with Jake List. He is here to present the quarter 3 report for DraftKings.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners, and thanks as always for the opportunity to speak. Just quickly before I share screen for the presentation, I'll introduce the others on the call that will be speaking today. So we have Chrissy Thurman, our Head of Responsible Gaming Relations, Christina Akis, who's our Vice President of Inclusion, Equity and Belonging, Jared Hess, our Director of Communications, and Kim Amphi, our Accounting Manager.
Good morning. Thanks, Jake.
Yeah, so just let me know when you can see the screen.
We're good.
Great, so I'll jump in. Okay, starting with revenue. So I'll just go through the total number and then leave the screen up for a moment. So in Q3, DraftKings attained revenue of $54,145,685 at a hold of 9.1%. And this translates to $10,538,241 in tax payments. And with that, I'll move it straight over to Christina to talk about workforce diversity.
Thanks, Jake. Good morning, everyone. So just going to jump into our workforce diversity. So while we maintained our diversity representation quarter over quarter, we have seen growth within senior leadership roles. So our female senior leadership has grown by 23%, and our non-white senior leaders have increased by 10% quarter over quarter. So just a reminder in regards to where we set our goals. Right now, we have set our goals for 2025, specifically for 35% women overall and 40% non-white overall. But then within senior leadership roles, looking at 25% women and 20% non-white. So definitely tracking towards it, have a little bit of work to do, but efforts even within the last quarter have really been intentional about where we're showing up from recruitment and hiring opportunities. So that included Women Impact Tech Conference, Africa Tech, some Black Family Reunion, Out for Undergrad, as well as an internal Tech and Product Women's Summit, which was more focused on our internal efforts of how we want to develop and retain and further engage our female employees across tech and product. Next slide. Just wanted to give a representation from global US and MA standpoint. So we're seeing, as I just mentioned, continued growth within female representation, at least within our leadership roles, which is having an impact across the globe, but more specifically, very proud of our efforts within our, Boston headquarters. So at about 32.9% women within our senior leaders bucket. And then you'll continue to see just efforts across our female representation continue to increase quarter over quarter. So from a vendor supplier standpoint, this top row is total US, and then the bottom row is just within MA. So talking about inclusive work, I have an issue with Google Slides. So some of my formatting always disappears. So sorry about that. I will make sure these rows are labeled next time. But what you'll see is during Q3 of this year, we spent about $745,000 on diverse suppliers within the US, of which 97% was spent within Massachusetts. So overall, we're really, our overall goal, is 5% of spend. And right now we're at 1% in the US and 9% within Massachusetts. You'll see the total number of certified diverse suppliers looks low, but wanted to just remind everyone, we are currently onboarding Supplier IO, which will help us better track our supplier diversity efforts and spending. Right now, when we kind of did a retroactive look, we were just identifying those that are certified diverse suppliers. And as we all know, there are plenty of kind of smaller businesses that don't have formal certification. So when we started this year asking our vendors to self-identify, we did see an uptick. So we actually are seeing an increase in certified diverse suppliers that we are utilizing, but with the successful onboarding of Supplier IO, we're hoping to see that number actually jump a lot higher. Next slide, please.
Christina, before you move on to the next slide, I have a question. Are you working at all or have any communication with the Massachusetts Supplier Diversity Office? Are you using that office as a resource to get your diverse vendor numbers up?
Yep, so not yet. So actually we have a full on plan for Q1 to actually be a lot more intentional in those efforts. So looking at the National Minority Supplier Diversity Council, looking specifically in Massachusetts as well as Vegas and our other office locations, so that we can have broader relationships with diverse suppliers.
Thank you.
But efforts. So as I mentioned, as we're waiting for Supplier IO to be onboarded, we have just within the last few months identified 25 newly onboarded diverse suppliers. Again, not formally certified, but have self-identified. So again, really hoping that number continues to increase once we have our Supplier IO tool onboarded. Some key efforts that we've done, we actually designed a landing page that outlines our commitment to supplier diversity that is intended to go live at the end of this year. So we'll be able to start tracking traffic and signups and registration. We have started to do just some industry outreach as well. So we were present at the U.S. Black Business Chambers National Conference back in July in DC. I'm speaking on a panel, speaking with other supplier diversity professionals as well, so that we can also learn and just understand some best practices to incorporate into our efforts here at DraftKings. And then we're also looking at kind of the quote unquote low hanging fruit, right? Where can we always be intentional in our spending habits? And one of them is within our workplace experience team, which really manages all of our catering across all of our offices. So in Q3 alone, with this intentionality, we have tracked nearly $60,000 of just catering spending against diverse suppliers. And again, around 40% of that being spent within on Massachusetts businesses.
Again, following up with Commissioner Skinner's point, Christina, OSD will be you're local, and they're a fabulous partner.
Awesome.
To really give you great resources for vendors who are all certified here in Massachusetts. So maybe Crystal, if you haven't already, can forward to all the operators that contact information. That might be great.
Greatly appreciated. Thank you. And thank you, Crystal, in advance. So by next quarter, you'll see that relationship built and definitely, some continued progress within our supplier diversity initiative. Thanks, Jake.
Thanks, Christina. So moving on to compliance. Underage/minor access. So just to reiterate the definition that we use here, it's any example of alleged account use by a minor. We had one of those in July and 4 in August and 0 in September. I'll just pause for a moment as I noted there was some questions in the previous presentation.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay. I was waiting for you, Commissioner Hill.
Yeah.
By all means, Commissioner O'Brien.
No, I was just going to follow up on your line, which just starting with the caveat. So there may be some things that, to the Caesar's point, you don't necessarily want to air publicly in terms of detection. But I'd like to hear the same line of questioning that you were pursuing before.
Yeah, sure. I think I can. Yeah, I can go into a good level of detail. So firstly, I would reiterate what one of the commissioners stated, that ultimately it is difficult to police bad parenting, but that doesn't mean there aren't a lot of controls in place for this. So the first thing that I would point to is the advanced KYC that we conduct during the registration process. So apart from identity verification, we push you through one of three which you need to complete advanced KYC methods, and that includes a geo-compliant tool that we use, which essentially matches your phone device to see if it's recognized from other types of things that you've signed up to, so that we can recognize the device that you're using to sign up to DraftKings. We can also give you KBA questions, so questions that only the non-minor account holder should know, and then ID upload as well, if neither of those two things are successful. So we do
Jay,
conduct
could you
advanced
repeat that last one, please? I'm sorry.
upload of your physical ID.
Oh, thank you.
So these are all controls that sort of go some way to making sure that the person whose ID we're verifying is actually the account holder. And then on top of that, once you have signed up to DraftKings, we do have other controls in place. So while multi-factor authentication is a choice, we do enforce it on new device. So if you log on from a device for the first time, we push you through multi-factor authentication. When you log on from a new device, you also receive an email from us. So let's say that it is not the person that it's supposed to be, then the true account holder should receive an email noting to some type of unusual event. Beyond that, there are other types of geolocation controls that might alert us to an issue, which could be underage use, which will merit further review. So new device was one that was raised previously, but also logins from different accounts on the same device, also location jumping. So if someone moves from one location to another quicker than they should be able to and logs in on another device, then these are all things that merit further fraud investigation. One of the outcomes which could be potential underage use. So one of the things we might check is the user's email, and it can be that if the email is in a name of like one of the children of a parent, then that would be the type of thing that would be alarming. It's not all geolocation triggers either. So like a sudden change in betting behavior might also be something that triggers further review. Obviously, if an adult is using the account, then suddenly it's a kid. Not necessarily minor use, but sort of any type of unusual activity would generate further review, and underage access can be one of the potential cases.
Commissioner Hill? Follow-up, Commissioner O'Brien, you leading in? No? Okay. Thanks, very helpful.
No problem. So I'll just quickly talk about responsible gaming use statistics. So firstly, just pointing to voluntary self-exclusion. We use the state self-exclusion program to match against DraftKings users. There were 170 of those cases in Q2 and 121 in Q3. And then we were asked to provide information about percentage use of responsible gaming tools. So we have this here for the first time in Q3, and I'll go through each one. So time limits, that's setting purely the amount of time that you can spend on the site. Perhaps more applicable as a sort of casino tool than sports wagering, but we do have it, but it's used by less than 0.1% of users. Deposit limits much more frequent, used by 2.3% of our user base. Spend limit, which is total amount of handle during a period of time, 0.13%. Single wager limit, so the max wager that a user can set for themselves to bet, 0.4%. And then cool-offs as well, shorter periods of time than self-exclusion that will essentially prevent you from being able to log into your account. And that is actually used by 1.4% of the user base.
So I have a question here, Jake. It's not really a question. It's actually a request of some sort. We've talked about, during the application process, this was a very important piece of the application. We wanted to make sure that we had strong RG tools for individuals to use on their device. We know we share this with other jurisdictions. This is not novel, but it really, these tools are very critical to this particular commission. We're very aligned on this. And I know that our director of research and responsible gaming has been concerned that the bettors just are not utilizing them. And I really thank you for this slide, because it speaks to that, right? So my request is this, you've got some language there, and I like, it's more fun when it's more fun. That's excellent. But if we can all think collectively as we move forward, how can we get our consumers in Massachusetts to really take advantage of these tools? And the only way I've been able to say it is to, make them cool, right? It's like, I likened it, and I've said it publicly before, using a ski helmet. If you're a really great skier, you wear a ski helmet. You don't leave your helmet anymore. It's just, you want to be a fast skier, you wear your helmet. If you want to be a fast cyclist, you wear your helmet. And those are tools for protection. So just moving forward, we appreciate, I'm speaking for myself right now, but I really appreciate this slide, and whatever DraftKings can do with all of its influence to get the folks to use these. I know I would welcome it. I bet my fellow commissioners would too.
Yeah, no, that's obviously understood. I'll let Chrissy, who's the expert, I guess, speak to that as we moved on to the next slide. What I would say in advance is, yes, stigmatizing RG tools is certainly a goal. Beyond that, we are making sure that we visualize them as much as possible. So if you are not using a responsible gaming tool, you are receiving a monthly notification from us reminding you of your ability to do that. And I guess the last thing I would say, looking at raw percentages, perhaps immediately strikes you as low numbers, but we are talking about populations of hundreds of thousands of users. So there are thousands of people, using these tools, even if among a total scope, they're single finger percentages.
And that's a really good reminder, Jake, because I know that if we look at our research, the problem gambling population is, sort of at that 2%, right? 2 to 3%. So I appreciate that. And that is a really good reminder. It's thousands are taking advantage of it. And so my expectations need to be set properly too. And I didn't want to jump the gun, Christina, on your next slide. I had seen that, of course, from reviewing it, but I love that DraftKings can take a leadership position here.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Jake. I'll take it from here. So
Chrissy, sorry.
No worries at all. Nice to see everyone. Hello. It is such an extremely important question that you asked, Chairman Judge Stein, because I think what we're looking at is really, as Jake alluded to, and as you have just said, that we are really trying to destigmatize the use of tools. And as you noted, and I have heard you say previously, trying to make it cool. What we know from our research is that people think that if they engage with tools that they might have a problem. So the responsible gaming tools, they're saying, oh, geez, well, I don't have a problem, so I don't need to engage with it, but it's great you have them. So we are really working toward making sure that we are trying to engage with all our customers, as Jake said, on a monthly basis, and really just put out specific responsible gaming messages on a monthly basis. But as alluded to, we're sharing two specific messages here that went out in September. as it was Responsible Gaming Education Month, we are active members of the American Gaming Association and partner with them throughout the entire month. And similarly, we do quizzes and engagement, and we spotlight our employees internally who have really stepped up to the plate as far as responsible gaming is concerned in all areas of our organization, not just the RG compliance and reg ops team. So we're really proud of the work that we're doing internally with our employees, but really communicating with our players. As you can see here, some of these messages is, your play, your way. With tools, you get there, and it's more fun when it's for fun. These are responsible gaming specific messages. They lead directly to our RG tool page where individuals can set their limits, as Jake alluded to: time, wager, spend, etc. So it's really something that we are very focused on and will continue to be focused on as we develop more and more responsible gaming tools for our portfolio. I also wanted to mention that this year during, Jake, just to mention, this year during our GEM, all three of the founders at DraftKings put out public messages, and it was extremely well received. We are so proud that from the top down, the RG messages is getting out. The RG messages, are getting out, and that our founders are extremely engaged with us. And as I know you're keenly aware, it's extremely important that we have that message come right from the top. So we're really proud of that as well. Just following up from last report, just wanted to do a recap of our responsible gaming funding, just so you're aware. These are a lot of the resources that we engage with regularly and use to help guide us and develop not only our education and training programs, but also how we think about evidence-based information and messaging and how we get information out. So we provide all of these tools to all our players at any time. They can engage with them. We also just wanted to mention the last one here is the Cambridge Behavioral Health. KBH, as we refer to it. I'm not sure if you saw what we have done, but the end of September, end of Q3, we engage with KBH, and we are now providing all our self-excluded players in Colorado as a pilot to check engagement with a resource to direct clinical services. So any player that self-excludes off our site in Colorado and who we exclude will receive a direct link to Cambridge Behavioral Health to engage in clinical services. As this is a pilot in Colorado, we just started it as of October 1. So I'm just getting numbers in now, but I'm a huge proponent. If people engage with it and we help one person, then that's pretty good. So we can certainly keep you informed as numbers come in, but we're really proud of this relationship and this I think what we'll call a soft handoff to people who self-exclude, so engage when they're excluding, that they have this resource at their fingertips to engage with.
And they use telehealth.
That's exactly correct. They're a telehealth service.
Yeah,
Yep.
It's excellent.
Great, thank you. I'm going to turn it back over to Jake to talk about the lottery.
Commissioners, did you have any questions for Chrissy?
Apologies. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, I asked it, and it was my apologies for going first. Commissioners, I want to make sure that you're all set. I really do appreciate those metrics. Thank you.
Certainly, thank you.
And I just wanted to throw in, I do also like seeing the Massachusetts specific investments. I know you guys are a Mass company, but I do like to see that.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Chrissy. So I'm moving quickly to the lottery. You'll note this is the same slide as our previous update. So we did engage with the lottery prior to our update in Q2. We have not engaged them further during Q3, but we'll continue to use this portion of the update to keep you abreast of any progress that we do have.
Thank you.
For community outreach, now I'll pass it over to Jared.
Thanks, Jake. Good morning, commissioners. Just excited to walk you through some of our charitable initiatives through our DraftKings Serve CSR program for Q3. We'll start with the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. So we've been a long time supporter of the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. Prior to the Red Sox game in September, we presented a check for $55,000 to the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. We're also sponsors of the Jimmy Fund Day at Fenway, which is a really great opportunity for cancer patients to have this like experience of a lifetime, but also raise money for cancer research. Yes, and then so we've had a multi-year relationship with the Arbor Day Foundation. We've done a lot of large-scale reforestation planting, but this year we're committed to doing community-based events for our employees to actually volunteer. So we had so many volunteers in Massachusetts, we actually did 2 events. So the first was on September 26th. This was in Roslindale, Mattapan at Mount Hope Cemetery, where we planted dozens of trees. This was a green space that's used by the community, and they had asked for more trees and more shade for their walking paths. So we contributed there. And then if you go to the next slide, we had another event on September 28th. This was at Memorial Park in East Boston. So our tree planting partners let us know that East Boston actually has the lowest tree canopy in all of Boston. So we were decided to plant a lot of large trees at Memorial Park. Also with its proximity to Logan, this is a great opportunity to mitigate against noise pollution and air pollution that comes from the airport. We also sponsored the Celtics Shamrock Foundation Tip-Off Gala. So this year raised over $1.5 million, which then gets invested back into the Boston community. And we continued our Pinkham campaign again this year for the 5th year. So this is a partnership with the Larry Fitzgerald Foundation to raise money for breast cancer research. So customers participate in these free-to-play pools. For each entry, we donate $1. So we ended up donating $100,000 this year, again, in support of breast cancer research. We've also continued our Tech for Heroes program this year. So this is, we've done this for several years now. So we've, at this point, trained over 800 veterans and military spouses in high demand tech skills. So they go through our collaboration with Vets in Tech, where they are trained in cybersecurity and web development to come back and be able to then get into, the tech sector and get jobs when returning from service. Yeah, we've donated over $2 million to this program since 2018, and excited to hopefully train 1,000 veterans by next year. And then finally, in response to the tragic shooting that occurred in Maine, we made a $100,000 donation to the Maine Community Foundation, to their Lewiston Auburn Area Response Fund, which will go directly to victims and their families. I think that's it.
Commissioners, questions for Jared or comments on that presentation? Well, I'll say big thank you. You are, I think, Commissioner Hill, and we assessed these applications. We hope that we would see this kind of generosity, and I just want to thank DraftKings for the variety and generosity of their community work.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions besides? Crystal, are we all set?
I think we are. Yep.
Thanks, Jake. Thanks to the team. Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next we have PSI, and Adam Cates will be introducing their quarterly report. I think I saw him on here. There he is.
Morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here with you again today to give our quarterly update for Q3. Let me just find the presentation here. Everybody can see that okay?
We can. Thank you.
Great. I did want to start off the presentation with a couple of sort of reminders and just pieces of context. So since this is a Q3 quarterly update, it will not include any metrics or context around our ESPN rebrand, which happened 13 days ago on November 14th. We are very excited to share more specific details of how successful that launch was. However, since this is Q3, we'll be deferring a lot of our ESPN updates for that quarter. And another thing I wanted to highlight here, I couldn't find a place for it in the template. I believe I would have spoken about this briefly in our Q2 update, but it did occur in Q3, so I did want to highlight it here. Our migration away from two of our very key third-party vendors in White Hat Gaming and Canby occurred in July of 23. So our player account management platform, which is essentially the central nervous system of our sportsbook, which was previously on technology owned by White Hat, as well as our sportsbook trading platform, as well as the individuals who were controlling the sportsbook in terms of setting the lines, opening markets, and all of the markets that were available for our patrons in Massachusetts. That was done by Canby. In July of 23, we migrated off of both of those platforms onto our own in-house technology stack. And what that means is, as of July, we are now fully independent of third-party vendors in terms of the technology that we have developed, designed, and now operate. And all of the employees that are working on the sportsbook are in-house Penn Sports Interactive employees. So I'm probably not doing it justice by just giving a couple of high-level overview points, because it was a massive effort by hundreds of people that took over a year to complete. But that did happen in Q3, and I wanted to sort of lead off by making sure that everyone was acknowledged, for the hard work that they did do. And also just a thank you to the MGC staff as well for working through that transition with us, making sure that we had all of our ducks in a row and that we were in a good place to actually achieve what we were trying to achieve in July. So I'll lead there, and this will come in handy. This will come back up again in subsequent slides as moving to our own in-house technology. There's a lot of improvements there, and you will start to see some of that in some slides that I'm going to be showing you shortly. Are there any questions on the technology migration front before I start to get into the actual metrics?
No questions, but just a congratulations to you. It sounds like a huge accomplishment. So looking forward to you highlighting a few of the most important areas where we will see significant changes as you go through your presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner Skinner. I appreciate it. So moving on to revenue. And it's important to note here the one piece of context for this slide. I was a part of a handful of conversations, and I know, Commissioners, you had some other conversations with myself, members of Penn Entertainment and Penn Interactive, with respect to the winding down of the Barstool Sportsbook. So these numbers here from a revenue perspective are indicative of that. We ceased our marketing, we ceased our promotions to sort of clear the runway for ESPN in November. So the numbers that you see here are reflective of that. And in our next quarterly presentation, I think you'll start to see the stark difference between the two quarters in terms of revenue. So I did want to highlight that here, that this was during our wind down process where we were not actively marketing the sportsbook. On to our workplace diversity numbers. As you can see here, as of the end of Q3, 40% of our staff are in the minority demographic, 34% are female, 2% are veteran, and 5% are Massachusetts residents. One of our goals in our application was by 2025 to have at least 50% of our staff across the board fall into one of these categories. As you can see by these numbers, I think we are very much on pace to hit those numbers, and we very much look forward to continuing to develop in this area and making sure that Penn Interactive's workforce is reflective of the diverse backgrounds that many people can bring to our company. So we are very much on pace to meet our 2025 goal here. In terms of vendor and supplier diversity spend, the one thing I did want to highlight here is actually a very good success story. So by 2025, our goal was to more than double our diverse supplier spend. And we are very happy to say that as of the end of Q3, we are already just over 17, almost 18% above our 2-year target, and we are trending to increase that spend further. So it didn't take us long to actually get to our 2-year stretch goal. But we are here now, and the numbers are looking like it's going to increase from here on out. So we should be blowing our goal out of the water by the end of Q4 and into 2024 and beyond.
Do you want to share your strategy at all, Adam?
I wish I could. it's just me today on the presentation. So as the head of compliance, I don't have direct insight into these numbers, but I can say that our HR team, our recruitment staff, our finance group, everyone, our vendor, procurement, everybody does a fantastic job trying to seek opportunities to increase in this area. And obviously it's working, as you can see. So we're up to almost $900,000 in vendor spend on the for 2023, and the year's not done yet. So I'm not withholding the secret sauce from you. I wouldn't be able to share it.
No, that's okay. Just, it's a good increase. So congratulations. Thanks.
We're proud of that. Thank you. All right, and on to the compliance slide. So Commissioner Hill, I know you've had a couple of questions for Caesars and for DraftKings. So I think maybe I'll use this opportunity to sort of share some insight. And this is sort of one of the benefits of moving to our own in-house technology. As you can see here, the potential underage activity, our instances are trending downwards. So we are down 40% from the last quarter, and we expect this number to sort of stay very low. And really, one of the main drivers for us that we are very proud of is our enhanced KYC registration workflow. So as of July, all new accounts in Massachusetts and everywhere that Penn operates, there is a requirement to upload government issued ID and a selfie. And what happens from there is we'll use a vendor to validate the authenticity of that ID. We'll make sure that it's valid, it's not expired. And then we'll take the selfie, which is done in real time on your phone. So it's not a situation where you can upload a picture of anybody. It will actually open the camera on your phone. You'll take a selfie, and our vendor will actually match your face to the face on that ID. So this is a really good control for us to make sure that we know who we're dealing with, and that the person who's actually registering for the account is the person who should hold the account. And how this fits into the underage spectrum is we find that it's a lot harder for a teenager to use their parents' information and just open up an account. By adding the ID and selfie piece, you have to be holding the ID and the phone in order to open up an account. So if an 18 or a 19-year-old does attempt to create an account, it's not going to go through because they're going to be using their own ID credentials, which would show that they're underage. And if they are going to use their parents' information, they would have to figure out a way to grab their ID and take a selfie of them without them knowing about it. Again, it's not a silver bullet, but it is a very strong control that we have. And as the head of compliance who's responsible for RG, AML, and fraud, like I said, it's not a silver bullet, but I could tell you that I sleep pretty well at night knowing that we've got this control up front for all of our new registrations, and it's a requirement. And I believe we are the only operator in the state that requires this for every new account, but we are very proud of it, and we've seen benefits just like this, where our underage, our identity theft, AML concerns are slowly diminishing, and it's a control that we're very proud of. I'll leave it there.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner.
So sounds great. And thank you for explaining to us. And that's when you open up an account. Can you just talk a little bit about the geo-compliance that we've heard from the other two companies? Once the account is up and running, when's the red flag start flying?
Absolutely, Commissioner Hill. And I would just echo everything that DraftKings and Caesars utilizes from a GeoComply perspective. We are a customer of GeoComply as well. So all of the alerts that DraftKings went into in terms of teleportation and all of a sudden, an account appearing across state 2 minutes later, or multiple logins from multiple devices, we are alerted to all of those things as well. So we are very similar to DraftKings and Caesars in that respect. We also look at GeoComply pings if they're being done at high schools, or if they're being done at areas that may be more conducive to minors being there. So GeoComply is a wonderful tool that we use. It tells us a lot about our user base, and we are protected from an alert perspective because they do provide these types of alerts to everyone in the industry. And just like DraftKings and Caesar says, we find them very valuable. And of course, every instance of alerts that come through comes with a full investigation, temporary or permanent account suspension. So it's no different across the board. But we do believe that our KYC program does help at least deter some of that activity as an initial deterrent. And then, of course, we utilize the same tools that everyone else uses after the fact as well.
Adam, was that new? I'm sorry, Commissioner Hill. Sorry about that.
It was a thank you.
Adam, just kind of a similar question to Commissioner Hill's. This new requirement, was that only applicable to new registrants as of July 2023? Or, so you're nodding your head. So is there an effort to have any existing patrons go back to upload that documentation just as a form of verification? Or are you satisfied that, you don't have any vulnerabilities there in the existing customer base?
It's a fair question. It's a good question. And I would say it's more so the former. It's not to say that our existing patrons in Massachusetts have not provided ID, because we do, as part of our regular AML fraud or RG reviews, we do request ID for various reviews that we do have. So it's not to say that our Massachusetts patrons prior to July don't have ID on file, but it is one of our goals to sort of go through that remediation exercise. We just need to figure out a way to do it eloquently and to do it in a way that's not very disruptive. But Commissioner Skinner, it is part of our plan to make sure that we've got ID for everybody, essentially. We have to just figure out a thoughtful way to roll that out that's not ultra disruptive to our current patrons. So I would say it's really also the former.
That's fair. Hopefully you might have something an update to report when you are here for Q4.
I can take a note, and we can certainly provide an update on our progress, or at least our plans going forward. I'm happy to do that. Okay. Any other questions before I move on? Okay. In terms of our responsible gambling tools, we've seen 48 people in the quarter add themselves to the voluntary self-exclusion list, which is a 26% increase from the previous quarter. Roughly 2% of our users in Massachusetts are utilizing at least one RG tool, and 0.5% of our Massachusetts accounts are using the timeout or cool-off period. Timeouts and cool-offs are similar to self-exclusions. They're just a little bit more temporary. So as you can see, the majority or almost half of our patrons are putting themselves on cool-offs for that 3-day to 1 month period. But we do have people, 36% of people putting themselves on cool-offs for greater than 6 months. So we can attribute this slight uptick, I think, for a couple of reasons. I mean, for one, NFL season kicked off in September. So obviously we see a little bit more activity on the platforms in general. Also, September was Responsible Gaming Education Awareness Month, just like DraftKings and Caesar mentioned. So we do see upticks in these metrics. Now, I did want to also commend DraftKings and their RG marketing strategy, because Penn shares a very similar approach, which is the destigmatizing of RG. We want to make sure that all of our patrons sort of look at RG as just a way of life. It's just a normal thing to do. It's not necessarily a tool that's a last resort or used for problem gamblers. We want it to look and feel just like the rest of our product, and we want people to get generally excited about using these tools. And the more that people become aware of this, and the less stigma that we put on RG tools as a preventative measure for problem gamblers only, I think is only going to lead to more success in the industry. So I commend DraftKings for taking a step in that direction, because we very much share that sentiment. And I can also assure you that our new branding partners also feel the same way. So we are very much looking forward to using their broad audience to amplify messaging, positive RG messaging that reinforces it, that it's not just something that you should be using when you're in trouble. So we have a lot more exciting things to share on our subsequent quarters from here on out, because as I mentioned, our branding partner is also very keen on this as well. And there's a lot of exciting opportunities coming down the road from an RG marketing perspective.
Thanks for that.
On to the lottery. Now, while the slide doesn't have a ton of information in it, Q2, we did see, that was our first meeting with the Massachusetts Lottery. We started brainstorming ideas on what we could do in the industry and how we can create sort of win-win scenarios for everybody. Q3, we did see the implementation of some of our initial ideas. So online customers, our existing patrons, receive to receive and redeem free lottery tickets at our PBC property in Plain Ridge. To date, I believe we're up to over 40,000 emails have gone out. So while it's only one line on a spreadsheet, it has reached quite a number of people, and we're looking forward to continuing that trajectory as well. We also had a new offer for anyone who signed up for a new PEN account online, also received free lottery tickets to be redeemed at PPC. So we are very much actively engaged with both the Massachusetts Lottery as well as our colleagues at Plain Ridge. And we look forward to adding more updates to this slide in future quarters, but we have started our initial campaigns, and so far so good on that front.
Questions for Adam on that, commissioners? Commissioner Hill.
I have just a quick question. I'm trying to understand the process and everything, but when you're putting out, like if I got online or on my cell phone, is there, and I don't want to call it an ad, but is there something on there that has like a picture of the Mass Lottery, you know, that type of thing? I'm trying to figure out how we let people know about the Mass Lottery. I think that's the whole point of, you know, online things of that sort.
And that's a fair question, Commissioner Hill. So while it might not exist in our app today, we do have advertising space and inventory that we could use, similar to how we advertise our promotions. So there's no reason why we can't add a specific call out or highlight the Massachusetts Lottery in our Massachusetts instance of the app. So this way people in Ohio don't necessarily get that advertisement because they're not in Massachusetts, but there's no reason why we can't look at devoting some of our inventory or our ad space to the Massachusetts Lottery within our app or on the desktop. So it's definitely been part of our conversations because you know, we realize that our app reaches a large number of people, and even if it's just raising awareness on the Massachusetts Lottery, I think that would be a win as well.
I was having a brain cramp when I was asking the question. Now, I'm thinking like a tag or a tagline. Is that what they call it?
Yeah, it would be just add inventory space. It could be text, it could be a picture, it could be both.
Thank you for that. And that's what, you know, I envisioned, you know, when we were allowing the applications to all move forward, you know, knowing that, I mean, you have access and connections to a brick and mortar, most of them do not, and how we can get the word out, but it's, you know, through the ads and the taglines and things of that sort. So thank you for that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, there are certainly cross-sell opportunities as well as just general awareness and education opportunities as well. And we will explore both of those. And again, we look forward to updating this in future slides.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our community outreach section. I do also want to take this opportunity to shout out our HR teams, our people and culture teams, our office management teams. They do a wonderful job of always having something in the pipeline for our staff to participate in. As you can see, there were 15 events that we participated in over the last quarter, and we can't do that without our staff giving us the opportunities to do so. So we have a lot of different opportunities that span all of our offices. We have offices in Massachusetts, Philadelphia, Hoboken and Cherry Hill, New Jersey, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, as well as Gibraltar. And as you can imagine, it's not the easiest thing in the world to bring multiple offices and multiple locations together, but our teams do a phenomenal job of raising awareness and putting opportunities out there for people to make differences locally. So part of the 15 events that we had in the last quarter included volunteering at food banks, which is the picture you see here, senior centers, animal shelters, virtual donations. We did a drive where we packed back to school kits for underserved youth when they were going back to school, community cleanups, and we also did career workshops. And I wanted to stop here for just a second to highlight one of the opportunities that we had with a group called HopeWorks. HopeWorks is a program that takes unemployed and underserved youth and puts them in a position to gain interest and give them a leg up at getting into a career in technology. So while Penn Interactive is very much an online gambling operator, we are also a tech company. We have a lot of developers, we have a lot of engineers, we have a lot of really bright people that are developing the technology that our product is running on. So having opportunities to work with companies like HopeWork to actually speak to kids who are interested in getting into that space, we have a lot of knowledge that we can share. Now, I don't personally, because that's a whole other language to me sometimes, but we have a lot of really smart people who have a lot of really good advice to give to kids getting into that industry. And it also, that group also helps these kids actually get paid jobs in the tech industry. So I did want to highlight that because it was very relevant to the work that we do every day. And I also think it was really impactful for the kids that attended that seminar. And then we'll end off the section on the community outreach by talking about, what we did in Massachusetts. So our Penn Games Studios team is small but mighty. I think there's about 5 of them, but they did partner with Source to Sea to help clean up a section of the Green River in September. So while 15 bags of trash and old tires and shopping carts and debris doesn't sound like a whole lot, the team worked very hard for pretty much the whole day trying to clean up that small part of the Green River. So this is something that we were proud to share that we did in Massachusetts, and our Penn Game Studios team will continue to do events like this in Massachusetts to make sure that we are present in that community as well. And lastly, we'll, again, I've touched on this already before, but September being Responsible Gaming Education Month, Penn Entertainment, Penn Interactive rolled out a number of content and resources focused on responsible gaming best practices. We did this both on site at our Penn properties as well as through our social and digital channels for our interactive product. And again, just want to reemphasize our desire to really go, I guess, do things a little bit differently in terms of traditional RG marketing. As I said before, and it sounds like, our partners in the industry are also very much on board. It's just, again, the destigmatizing and just making RG just a part of regular normal life. Madam Chair, like you mentioned, wearing a helmet when you ski or bike is just second nature, and we want RG tools to also feel and have that same mentality when our users are gambling on our site. And that takes me to the end of the presentation. I'm happy to go back to any other slides or answer any questions that you might have.
Questions, commissioners? We're all set. Adam, can you remind me how many folks are out in the Greenfield area again?
I believe our Massachusetts staff is about 5. Let me just scroll back up here.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, 30. 5%, 30. But that's
Well, it's 30 now. I feel like that's grown, right? So
it certainly has. Yes, our Penn Game Studio is a section of our workforce that is now developing games for our online casino platform in other jurisdictions. So a lot of really talented people on the Penn Game Studio side that we are adding to the team in Massachusetts right now.
and in an area out west, which is excellent. So thank you for sharing their community outreach. It's excellent.
Happy to. Thank you.
Commissioners, are we all set? Want to take down the slideshow, please? Thanks. There, we're all back. Any outstanding questions? Excellent presentation. Thank you, Adam. Carried it on your own.
Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Okay, Crystal.
All right, and last but not least, we have WinBet, and Jennifer Roberts is here to present that to you. Hi, Jennifer.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. I'm joined here also by Jackie Crum, Senior Vice President and Vice President of Encore Boston Harbor. I'm Jennifer Roberts, Vice President, General Counsel of WinBet. So I will share my screen and also apologize in advance for any barking dog.
If we don't have a dog or a cat involved in something, we're not living right now, Jennifer. So there. Commissioner O'Brien, I'm sure, may have a visitor shortly.
I'm just having to do some settings changes. So 1 second, let's try this again. There we go. You're able to see that okay?
Perfect.
Great. So this is our third quarter 2023 report. We have the comparison of past quarters of this year on our revenues, taxes collected and handle. And this is a comparison for previous quarters, but all information that has been reported to the Commission. We continue at WinBet to encourage and promote a diverse workforce, with half of our workforce representing diverse groups. And so we have a breakdown. We have had some changes due to natural attrition, but we do continue to promote a diverse workplace. And you will see on this slide as well, we continue to have representation at all levels, and we do have a slight increase of diverse representation at management and executive levels. But again, you know, we have gone through some natural attrition with number of employees. But we thought it's important to do a quarterly comparison as well of our workforce. So although our workforce percentages have decreased slightly, again, due to natural attrition and the company's overall reevaluation of its business offerings across all jurisdictions, WinBet continues to consist of a high percentage of female leaders, and that is represented throughout WinBet, including legal, compliance, our product team, customer service, and finance. And we have utilized various resources and have fulfilled many of our initiatives that we started the year with, including career pathing and you know, continuing to invest into our upskilling of our employees. And I would like to go back. I think there is one where we do have representation of, sorry, I thought the slide was here. We do have 50% of our workplace is at the executive and management level are women. And so we're happy and proud to have that representation as well. Okay, when it comes to vendors, we continue to evaluate if new vendors are added, whether they are minority owned or women owned businesses or veteran owned businesses. We do have spend primarily with women-owned businesses. In the third quarter, we do continue to work with Encore Boston Harbor and their procurement team to identify resources and potential vendors that can serve WinBet if any new vendors are added. So again, our goal is to continually to, you know, even though we don't mandate identification, we have viewed the lists that are supplied by the Massachusetts supplier and diversity group. And again, we continue to work with Encore Boston Harbor on identifying diverse suppliers. So when it comes to compliance, we did not have any minors that attempted to engage on our platform or confirmed any underage access. We use similar tools as our competitors to identify and help identify and prevent any minors from accessing, including GeoComply. We follow, you know, KYC procedures where they have to provide information to help identify. And then during our withdrawal processes, we also make sure that there are matches to funding sources that are not from underage funding sources.
Commissioners, questions? Good morning, Jennifer. How are you?
Good. How are you doing? Thank you.
Well, thank you. So on the multifactorial identification process, you do that, right? I don't think mandate it, but you do it, right?
We have enabled two-factor authentication for all accounts. It can be something that can be disabled by patrons if they choose, but it is something that is now enforced on any account.
Oh, so it's a default, and they would have to disengage it.
Correct.
And that's like the questions, that kind of thing.
Correct.
The security
questions. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Yeah. And we also follow, like others have described, we look for pings, the geo-comply pings near certain areas like high schools. And we look at making sure that the funding source matches, the name on the account. And, unfortunately, there's not 100% foolproof way to prevent a parent from giving access to their children, but we do try to use as many resources as possible to prevent that.
It was interesting because the conversation that Commissioner Hill and I had we certainly touched on the parent issue, but it was almost like it was the peer issue. Mm-hmm. The older peer providing access to the younger peers. And that would mean that they would have multi-devices. But what I'm hearing today is that the geo-comply, Commissioner Hill, I don't know if you're agreeing, if I'm hearing the same thing.
I am.
That the geo-comply would actually pick that up if they were using multi-devices. Is that right, Jennifer? Is that how that would get some suspicious activity?
Yeah, we can evaluate for suspicious or unusual activity with multiple IP addresses using the same account. Correct.
Yeah. So I think that's really helpful. I think we thought that was the case, Commissioner Hill, but it's good to hear this today. Very timely. Thank you.
Indeed. Yeah.
Okay. For our responsible gambling, we did see, as others have also seen, an increase in enrollees of the voluntary self-exclusion program, and we attribute that to the start of football season, preseason in August and September in full force. So we have seen an increase, and we do offer the similar tools for responsible gaming, limits, deposit limits, wager limits, and we offer exclusion from our app. And we have reached out to the lottery to discuss, what we can do to collaborate and work together. We haven't set up a meeting yet, but we have made that contact and reached out. So again, we do support Encore Boston Harbor, has a good relationship with the lottery and does have machines on site to purchase lottery tickets. So that is in process. And our community outreach and charitable impacts, we do, a lot of our employees work with local in Nevada. Most of our employees are located in Nevada, and through Wynn Resorts and our parent company, there are a lot of opportunities for charitable giving and community outreach, and many of our employees participate in that. We have several employees that volunteer and participate in the charitable organization Global Gaming Women, and we do provide funding for the National Center for Responsible Gaming. So we do have an upcoming event that I think Encore Boston Harbor also participates in, Feed the Funnel, which is a large enterprise-wide event that takes place to provide meals for people that need meals during the holidays. So I think that's it. Happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions for Jennifer as she takes down the slideshow? Just reconvene as a group. Any questions? Thank you, Jennifer. Hope you had a nice holiday.
You too.
Thank you. And Crystal, I'll let you finish up with Director Band.
That's all I have for you. If there is any feedback that you have, or you have any further questions, just let us know and we'll get that together for you.
Thank you.
Madam
Bruce,
Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Hill.
So I guess messaging to Bruce and Crystal, at least from my point of view, is you heard today that we're very concerned, or concerns were raised to us regarding underage betting. I'm very comfortable at what I heard today, and actually pleasantly surprised at what I heard today, and I can take that information back to the group that we spoke to, a couple of weeks ago. But I just think it's something that we need to continue to keep an eye on and work with our operators to ensure that this is a priority for them. I think over the next few weeks, few months, and into a new year, this issue is going to come up in regards to how we can get this information out to our high school students, college students who aren't of age, things of that sort. So messaging back to you, it's something that we care deeply about, I think. And I hope that the staff hears us loud and clear that we need to keep an eye on this as best we can. And again, pleasantly surprised at what I heard today, and good education for us today.
Certainly do. We receive 2 reports a month that we review. One is the underage report, which you actually see here. That's their compilation for quarterly, but we receive that monthly. And we look at that not just for the access points, but the compliance with a different part of the reg, which if there is underage, and I think you guys saw this last quarter, if there is an underage, proof of underage access, what they've done, and we get those losses transferred to Derek's team for the sports wagering fund. So we steward that. The other report we get is called the suspended accounts report. And that is a monster from everybody, but we see lists of what kind of reasoning accounts were suspended for, and what they're doing with those accounts, and why. It just is a glimpse at what's happening at that level. So those are 2 mechanisms for us to be able to monitor this, and certainly willing to have more conversations about how to look at these points. And I know that you guys are interested in possible other security mechanisms going forward. So just let us know and we'll have those conversations.
Great. Thank you,
Thank
Crystal. Director Band.
Yes, those are things we always keep an eye on, and better ways to monitor it. So we're always looking. Thanks for a good job, Crystal, with that. Thank you.
Excellent job. And Crystal, you'll send to all of the operators the OSD information. I think they probably have it, but it's just a good reminder, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Anything else that we want for Crystal and team to outreach?
Madam Chair, I have just a couple things. Really, I didn't want to interrupt any one particular operator because it was general observation across the board, and I didn't want anyone to think it was particular to their operation. I do appreciate the player tool uptake stats. I know that we asked for that last time. It's very helpful. I'm really interested to see what Director Vanderlinden has to say about it, and help me process what it means. On this larger issue, and I hear that you and Commissioner Hill, and I appreciate the questions that were asked. I'm just going to be honest. I don't believe that the number is 0 or single digits. And there's some stats on it. 71% of 3,527 people surveyed in the NCAA survey. I know we were all called to attention to it. Were either too young or could not gamble per the survey. And their top line said, state legality and age restrictions do not pose much difficulty, as areas where betting is legal versus those where it's illegal. And it's most pervasive in the Northeast, where 61% of people surveyed were betting between 18 and 22. So I do believe the operators that they are doing everything that they can today to ensure that this is not happening. But I was interested in your question, Madam Chair, and really your point, which was, what else can we do? So I just don't believe it's 0. No one's going to convince me it's 0 or even single digits, especially, like I said, take a look at the NCAA survey to all those operators. You'll see that it's definitely happening. It's happening in very high numbers. And finally, just on the lottery, Commissioner Skinner and I got to go to an event with the treasurer a few months ago and got to speak to someone from the lottery. And the reason I'm interested in this topic in general is because there's been something else that's happened since sports wagering was launched, which was the lottery has been kind of priced out of the market when it comes to actually buying advertising. I actually heard a story where they had a long time spot for 20 plus years that they just couldn't afford. And it just so happens the people that could afford it were operators and sports wagering operators. So it is important to have this collaboration. Because I think it helps. I think it helps the lottery, and I think it helps get money to local aid throughout the Commonwealth. So those are just a few of my observations that were across the board. I didn't want to interrupt any one particular operator, and I appreciate the time.
Excellent. So on Crystal and Bruce's list would be Commissioner Maynard, just everybody being alert to possible ways to enhance that those KYC and the multifactorial authentications, right? Going forward in technology. I mean, I'm with you. I think there must be something more. Is that what you're thinking?
I think it goes even deeper. I think it goes even deeper. I think it comes to a pervasive, what could we do to get this out into the community? Commissioner Hill just mentioned that we've got to target people at a young age to make sure they know better. Informing parents. I mean, listen, I can literally create an account with my mother's name today because I know everything about her. I know where she was married, where she graduated high school, what her birthday is, right? And so educating parents that there could be some dummy accounts out there that they need to watch for, watching their devices. I think it's an all-inclusive strategy. I think KYC is a piece of it.
Okay, that's excellent. That's really good. So that's with Director Vanderlinden too. And I think there's partnering not only with the operators but other stakeholders who would maybe support PSAs in this line. Some of the major venues, perhaps. So again, I wanted to follow up, Commissioner Maynard, make sure that we take the steps that you're thinking of. Commissioner O'Brien?
So yeah, I know, and to follow up on that, I know I've had conversations with Director Vanderlinden too about, I know other state agencies that are interested in also participating in terms of prevention. There is a tricky line to walk when you're talking about going into high schools and colleges in terms of how you inform without enticing. And so I know that is something Mark is very aware of. That's sort of a multi-agency approach. I also do think from a law enforcement perspective, and I'm finalizing the public safety subcommittee agenda, and I'm thinking this might be on there as one of the last items we talk about next week, which is there are algorithms and suspicious activity that you can look at. There's different metrics when you're looking at, say, financial fraud in the government sector, right? You'll look at certain patterns, and there's actually a whole system developed when you see, everything ends in 0, 0, no cents. Everything is even. Everything is done in a systematic way, that sort of thing. They're beyond just geo comply. you could have someone who doesn't move and doesn't alter the device, right? But it's sort of the pattern inherent within that account. So there's a lot of this stuff that may in fact be going on that gets us to those stats that, and I agree with you, Commissioner Maynard, the zero was more, I think, did they actually truly identify the fraud as opposed to how many have they looked at and not substantiated? And I think those are very, very different numbers. And I think from a law enforcement perspective, there is a limit to what you want to talk about publicly so that they don't figure out how to do the workaround, right? And figure out, well, if they're looking for this, then I'm just going to, adjust accordingly, and then I won't be able to be detected. But I do think that that is a conversation I would love to have as a commissioner deeper with some of these licensees in terms of what exactly are the algorithms of the AI that they're using to try to identify what could be just beard accounts, where you have multiple kids on a college campus potentially putting in on one payout. So just my thoughts on that.
Okay. Any other thoughts? I'm just going to check in if Mills is listening. Mills, is there anything that you would add to this conversation around the KYC authentication and the compliance, because you have given us some good deal of thought? Anything you want to add? I don't want to put you on the spot.
Sorry, Chair. I don't know why my camera's not working right now, but no, I think this is a great conversation. I know that this has been a priority.
Yeah, okay. So, it's what I'm hearing, it's multifaceted in approach. So, I guess Director Ban, you've heard from the commission, this is something we'll keep our eyes on and also activate the different channels that got raised today, however we can.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
All right. Commissioner Skinner, are you all set?
I am, thank you.
Okay. So Crystal, if you're all set, then the only thing I turn to then is item number 3. Is there any commissioner update or any other business that we need to address before we adjourn? All right. And I'll take, and I'll just check in with Todd. You all set?
All set, yes, thank you.
All right. Then commissioners, we need a motion to adjourn.
I would move to adjourn, Madam Chair.
Second.
I got a second from Commissioner O'Brien. Thanks, everyone. Great job, Crystal. And we look forward to the next 4 reports, which are December
7th,
I think.
Yeah. All right. Great. Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
Aye.
Commissioner Maynard.
Aye.
And I vote yes. 5-0. Thanks, everyone. Have an excellent day. Thank you.